The humor code key idea number 5, humor can make frightening situations easier to cope with. People tend to laugh in the most stressful and hopeless situations. Even during war, people often turn to humor to live with their otherwise unbearable circumstances. This tendency is because laughter quells stress and anxiety. Sharing hardships with other people through jokes allows us to acknowledge our turmoil and fears and find common ground with other human beings without getting sullen. Even during the Holocaust, many prisoners held captive in concentration camps found ways to secretly tell jokes and stories and laugh. It wasn't only a way for them to cope, it also let them have some control over their lives. Everything else was taken from them, but no one could take their memories or secret moments of laughter. Joking and telling stories to each other was a small way they could rebel against their captors. Laughing at a person also changes the power dynamic. Once you laugh at someone, he or she seems less frightening somehow. Humor can sometimes even be used as a tool for protest. It can help people stand up to authorities or the government. In 1999, for example, the youth movement iHealth successfully used jokes and sarcasm to help bring down the Serbian president. Their idea was to create change without using violence, so they focused their protests on making fun of the government. They once painted the president's face onto a barrel and invited passers-by to punch it. Authorities eventually confiscated the barrel. The barrel's confiscation actually helped iHealth. By generating media attention, the government looked goofy for arresting a barrel, further undermining its political posture. The humor of the arrest helped iHealth's message spread more quickly. The humor code key idea number 6, when crossing certain borders, humor can have serious consequences. As we've seen in the violation benign theory, jokes are best when they have a good balance between something good and bad. But if a joke has too much of a violation, it can be problematic. Whether or not a joke is funny depends on who is telling it, but also the audience. It's ultimately up to the audience to decide if it's funny or not. They also decide if it's offensive. Jokes can certainly cause conflicts if the audience interprets them differently than intended or has a different perspective. Keep this potential pitfall in mind if you aren't sure how your audience will receive your joke. For example, the American joke, "Why do the French smell so blind people can hate them too," might not go over very well in France. Being the victim of a joke will often make people aggressive. Everyone has certain topics that feel too sensitive to be laughing matters. So be very cautious if your joke is at someone else's expense. In 2005, for example, a Danish newspaper published a series of caricatures of the Prophet Muhammad. This led to many demonstrations in Muslim countries and elsewhere throughout the world, in which several Danish embassies were destroyed and a few people were even killed. Many people claimed that the cartoons weren't supposed to be offensive. Some said they were supposed to be a sign of freedom of expression or freedom of the press. The original intent of the cartoons is not completely clear, and what's more important is how they are received. The humor code key idea number 7, laughter isn't the best medicine, but it can help us cope with illnesses. We've seen some examples of how humor can bring hope to even the most desperate situations, but can it do more?